You got mail. Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next hour or so, along with Spence.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. And Gal is here.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Katie.
Morning.
Morning. And Nick is here, too.
The whole gang is here.
Everybody
This is very
here.
exciting.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And it's the summer, which you would expect the opposite to be the case.
Yeah, you're not at the beach.
Happy solstice.
It's too hot to do anything outside.
I went fishing for like 11 hours yesterday. Great time.
What? Where'd you go fishing? I like fishing.
Well, let's talk
out of-
about it when I'm finished with the
Sorry.
intro.
I'm sorry. My
Our
apologies.
number is 561-518-9773. Computers. No, there's no Computers 2K now. Today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. So you want to talk fishing with Nick? Go ahead.
No, it was a valid question. We went about 20 miles offshore.
Oh, in the ocean.
Oh,
Yeah.
Did you catch?
No, that was the unfortunate part. My buddy burned 100 and probably 120 gallons of gas, and we caught jack all of nothing.
Oh.
Really? Yeah.
We had a great. It was so nice yesterday, though. It was beautiful. It's the nicest day I've ever been out on the water. The ocean was so clear and smooth. We were going probably 30 or 35 miles an hour, which you typically can't do in the ocean because it's so choppy, or not so choppy, but choppy enough that
No,
you
swells. If you go
Yeah,
fast enough, the swells, you'll be pounding, the
banging
bow.
your head. Exactly, and we weren't. It was beautiful. So
That's nice. I get seasick, so that would have been perfect for me.
you know, it's funny. I don't get seasick. I have a really light stomach. Like simple things upset my stomach, but the motion and stuff does not. Surprisingly.
Nope, I'm
Okay.
hurling over. I'm feeding the fishes.
We tried
That's
feeding
how you
him
get
to about
fish.
everything.
That's
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
catch them.
Yeah, that's how I catch so many fish. I did something cool this week, and well, it's not. I don't know if it's cool,
All right.
but
Wow, great setup. I did something cool. I don't know. If it's really, why are you even talking about it then?
well, I'm excited. I'm excited because it's new to me, but it's not new to the world. But I'm noticing that a lot of companies that are hiring, they want a hybrid person that can basically do everything. And so I'm specifically focused on generating creative content, like making videos. But I also do programming and stuff on the side just for my personal stuff. And now I'm noticing that all these job applications want people to know front end development. And that includes like UX, UI, and even some coding. So I was like, okay, let me learn some more about this. And so I started messing around with Figma, and Figma is the UX UI standard in the industry for front end development. And it's free and you can operate it in your browser. And I was messing around with it this week, and my friends are back-end developers. So I was like, hey, are you guys working on an application? Do you need a front end? I want to work on a project. And so my one friend is trying to recreate Slack just as a fun exercise to learn how to do it. And so now I'm trying to recreate the front end of Slack, and it's been interesting. And so far I like working in Figma. So anybody is doing, go ahead.
I used a tool a couple of years ago, which I think is similar. It's called a Retool. It's not. I don't think it's as far. It's as featured rich as Figma. But it was a really simple WYSIWYG. I think Retool's meant for internal software for like inventory and stuff like that. But it was amazing, even with my very rudimentary programming ability, to be able to build and I actually built a front end app that was used to collect payment and process data and stuff like that. This stuff's pretty cool. It's almost like Canva on steroids, which is kind of neat. Like Canva's like picture editing, and then it's like, oh, here's Canva, but now you can, interface with databases and things of that nature. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I
I think
haven't
you're
gotten
talking
to-
about no code solution.
Yeah, that's
Something
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's nice. You
Yeah.
can you can the nice thing about it is for more complicated things, you can run an SQL query or something like that,
Right.
which will work. But if not, you're adding in a text box and you're adding in a button that calls something from another program, or they call them programs, I think, inside of Retool. But it kind of brings me back to like the WYSIWYG website editors of the probably mid 2000s, before like WordPress and Drupal and Joomla really were kind of industry standards. You had a lot of these WYSIWYG website development tools where you would just go on and drag stuff around, and what none of it was live, so you would dump an HTML page or something like that,
Mhm.
and then you'd have your website. It's kind of interesting.
Well, it looks like on their website, they are now big on AI. Like the interface you're building in the back end, it'll run AI and AI agents for you on the data that you are working on. So it
Yeah,
seems
and I
like they are
actually
doing well.
Wait, what is it called again?
it's called
Retool.
Retool. I actually
Retool.
I use it once a year for a specific event that I run here in Wilmington, and I make a registration page and stuff like that. It checks a database and so on and so forth. And I actually use that. I had to reconfigure some of it this year, and inside one of the SQL queries, Gal, I needed to do something. I had known nothing about SQL databases,
Mhm.
minus how to add to them and dump them. And so I said, hey, I need this to happen when this button is clicked, and it wrote out the entire SQL query for me, which was is a rudimentary task. Chat GPT or anything else could have done it too, but
Nice.
it was nice that it was built right into the WYSIWYG no code editor, which I very much appreciated.
Well, I haven't gotten to the coding part. I'm still designing in Figma. Like I did the wireframe, and now I'm gonna make it pretty by adding colors and whatever. I'm trying to do the steps like how a legit UX UI designer would do it, and then then the next step is to figure out how to like make the program or whatever, or make it the thing, and then
Mhm.
make it the thing, and then hook it up to my friend's back end stuff. So going through that whole pipeline. It's
Yeah,
fun. I like learning new things.
make it a thing is a technical term. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gall's the industry expert, so I have no reason to disagree or argue with him.
Yeah. So we're
How long do you think these tools are sustainable long term? I mean, yes, it's very cool. And Gal, you've been in
They
the
will be.
industry. Okay. Well,
They will
let me
be
let,
because
let me
yeah,
play
go
out
ahead. Go ahead.
let me lay out why maybe not. And I'm not saying this is what I
No,
agree with, but I'm
right
just
now they're
thinking
not. You're right.
what going long term, there is these apps, Figma or whatever, they all have a similar style and look. It's kind of the difference of looking at something like Canva, which a lot of people have used, versus something like Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator. Can you do 90% of the tasks in Canva? Yes. But then there is also still your experts that when you need a logo built that is not some template that you're paying, $8 a month for through Canva or however much a Canva subscription is, that go into Photoshop, go into Adobe Illustrator and actually make something from scratch. And I wonder if we will, like, we're kind of, everything was custom for a period of time, you know, and now we're getting to these kind of industry setting tools. I wonder if that will weigh itself out, and then we kind of it caught like a kind of like a bell curve. We'll start getting back to, oh, you're good with Figma, great. We're looking for somebody that can actually do something completely custom. I don't know. It just seems like we
well,
see that trend somewhat often, where it's like everybody surges towards this thing. Canva's the greatest example of it. And now you're starting to see that people are like, well, I'm looking for somebody that's that can use Photoshop and use Adobe Illustrator.
I
And I wonder if that comes back. I don't know.
I think there might be some misunderstanding exactly what Figma is. Figma uh is the starting program where you design stuff in there. It's more like Illustrator, Photoshop. And
In the
it
past, it was called wireframe,
Yeah.
yeah,
like wireframing an application.
so you're making new stuff. The thing with Canva and why I feel like Canva is from my experience of using it, maybe it's changed in the last year. It's like the next step after you create something custom. So Canva has like a resource library of all of these graphics and all of these pieces that you can make your own stuff with. Like it has its own building blocks, but it's not necessarily the first thing you go to when you're trying to create something new. Like you wouldn't create your business logo in Canva. I mean, you could. I mean,
I
anybody could do
disagree. I think a
anything.
lot of people are like,
Yeah,
they're
but I'm talking like if you wanted to do a corporate, actually legit logo that has vector files that you can get EPS on it, you can get RGB values with MCYK, so you can print it on stuff. Like you can make a logo on pretty much anything, but if you need the adaptability, you're gonna go to like a image generating editor thing. And then but Canva makes it when you have those logos and you have those graphics, you can put it into your business library in Canva and start creating new content with it. At least
like,
that's how.
I've seen, like, even out at restaurants, I've seen menus that I'm like, oh, that's a Canva design. Like
Yeah.
it's obvious that this was coming from Canva.
How
and I
was
just-
it? How was it obvious, Nick?
because I use Canva for a lot of different things, and I've literally seen the template.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but
I
see,
was
that's the
like, I
thing.
was sitting down and I was like, oh my God, this
Okay.
is, I don't know the name of it, but I'm like, I've seen this template before. And I've also seen similar restaurants with the exact same menu because it's a tan menu with black text. It's very clear what it is. And of course, restaurants are these are small businesses we're talking about.
I
Um,
I understand what Katie's saying, but Katie, let's go back when I had the logo for the show or for Nissan Communications. I gave you just a JPEG. You converted it to something else in order to fix
Yeah,
it.
I had to recreate it in Photoshop because it
Right.
was low res.
Yeah. So you could do it in Canva, and then whoever wants
No.
to do it. No. I'm
no, you
saying,
can't.
huh?
No.
You would not be
Well,
able to do
okay,
that in Canva.
I think there's like a misunderstanding of exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about creating a new menu or a new product, like a new printed thing. I'm talking about the building blocks. Canva is great because you have all of these Lego pieces and you can make your own Lego creation. And
Mhm.
in this case is the menu. But let's say you don't want to use those pieces and you want to create your own. I'm sure you can maybe make your own in Canva. But if you wanted to add this swirly thing that has your brand things of this, and then you're probably going to have to use Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever other thing to make that Lego piece, and then you could put it in Canva and build your menus.
Okay.
And going back and I understand you, and I'm saying going back to what I'm mentioning, like that's the hot thing right now. Like I have seen job descriptions that says oh god, I'm completely blanking on the word, must be proficient in Photoshop or must be proficient in Word, Excel, and Canva.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, do we eventually hit a point where everybody's like, where Canva is no longer the thing, and we get back to, yeah, but can you use Photoshop? Can you
Yeah.
use Adobe Illustrator? I'm wondering if this is a bell curve or if this is just a straight line that goes up forever. I don't know. I just
think-
feel like we've seen a lot of these. I'll call them trendy because they are these trendy tools that kind of become the norm that just seemingly the next day disappear once everybody's like, oh well, all of these menus look the same, or all of these, Facebook graphics for 4th of July, every single freaking company has the exact same logo or the exact same stock template that is sent out with their custom logo slapped on it. I just wonder if there will be a reset at some
I
point.
mean-
I
No.
don't know.
Hold on, like WordPress was exactly like that
It was.
until right, the ecosystem was big enough, complex enough that now you open a website and it might be on WordPress and you would not have an idea that it has
Exactly.
WordPress in the back. The same goes for, I mean, if you think about something like Retool that you mentioned, right? It has the initial vibe of what Access DB used to be,
Mhm.
right? So they start as these small tools, and depending on adoption, they grow. Now, AccessDB would never grow because it is a single thing that runs on a single location, and making it like a network resource, it was never designed for that. These tools are designed to be as used as networked resources for collaboration. So will they grow to something substantial, more substantial than writing your own application with some SQL in the back end? That is a good question, because we usually see, we usually see stuff starting on with something that is very, very, very basic in its, even if in its design, right? And then it grows and gets complex, more and more and more complex. Hell, Facebook was written on PHP at the beginning, right? It's like, because it was easy to hack through something and build something fast. And it grew exorbitantly, right? Until they said, okay, we got to redesign everything. So it's the same thing. It all depends on where's the trajectory of whatever you're building, how fast it's growing. Eventually, it'll either sustain or break, and that's the real measure.
Canva, specifically with Canva, in my experience, Canva has out popularized Photoshop by a mile. And in fact, all the other editing softwares are trying to catch up to what Canva has done, which is
Remember,
its main thing is making creative stuff accessible to people that aren't creative. It's out of the box where you could just sit there, click a template, and make something. In Photoshop, yeah, there's templates that people have made, but it's not. It's a blank canvas. You open it and you have to do everything yourself, and you have to pay for it. Canva, you don't have to pay for. There's the pro version and stuff. And businesses nowadays, they'll have one designer that knows how to use Photoshop, and they'll have 10 people that know how to use Canva. So that one Photoshop person will make the template graphics, and those 10 Canva people will output all the graphics that a business social media post that people need, that a business needs every week. So Canva has definitely reshaped the, at least from my experience, the creative industry.
All right, let's switch. Microsoft is making it harder to use Chrome on Windows. The culprit this time, it's Windows Family Safety feature. Since early this month, the parental control measure has prevented users from opening Chrome. Strangely, no other apps or browsers appear to be affected. Redditors first reported the issue on June 3rd, posted that Chrome crashed on Windows 11. Just flashed quickly, unable to open with no error message. Another user chimed in with a correct guess. This may be related to parental control. I've had 9 students come see the IT desk in the last hour saying Chrome won't open. I'm wondering if this is done on purpose or something. It may be it could be a Chrome thing that is not.
let me ask a question.
Yeah.
Can you install Chrome from the Windows Store? And I'm
Yes.
guessing the answer is no.
You
No, I'm
cannot?
guessing it just takes you to the website.
Oh, so they don't have an app in the Windows
I
App
think
Store.
so.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll try now, but I think so. I haven't installed Chrome for ages, so
yeah. Interesting.
You are correct.
There isn't.
Chrome is not available. There's
I am guessing
Firefox,
that's the
and
source.
Opera.
That's the sort of the issue. Yeah.
Firefox, Opera, Brave, DuckDuckGo.
Right.
But those
So
are the main
if
browsers.
the application can be linked to the Microsoft Store, then it can be linked with a lot of metadata about the application, right? And I'm guessing that Microsoft, some update somewhere, when you have parental control enabled, which we guys over here on the show, we do not do that because the first thing we do is we install it without a Microsoft account, right? We intentionally disconnect ourselves from this ecosystem. But most people, they just install it with the Microsoft account. And one of the initial questions during the installation, especially on Windows Home, is once the account is there, right? It's like Microsoft Store is the way to install stuff, which is precisely what happened on Macs, right? What, 10 years ago, when they introduced the App Store on Mac OS, right? So maybe 15 years ago. So it's just a natural trajectory. This started with the iOS App Store being the only way to install stuff on iPods. Sorry, remember those?
Still have one.
Yeah,
I love my iPad.
no, it's great, but and I mean that was the reason iPod was such a successful product, right? Because if you compared it to any MP3 player back then or any media streaming device back then, it wasn't hooked to any ecosystem. They were the first ones to say, okay, here's a very cool hardware, and we connected it to a very easy way to get stuff on it, right? You don't need to know what is a download a file. You don't need to know we have this store, and you know what? You can also make money out of it. So that started this whole trend that we see in OSs today, that there's an ecosystem of apps built in with a store, this entire mechanism. And so, yeah, it just,
I read-
it tracks that Microsoft will go the same way. And if they're finally here, it seems.
I read recently that they have been wanting to do this for a long time.
Yeah.
And that they're finally now getting to the point where they're going to enforce it.
Yeah.
So-
Look, I've been using, they did an excellent work with Winget. They had a different name for it back then. And today, most of my installations, they go through Winget. I use it's called Uniget UI, which is, so Winget is Microsoft's open source project, right? To streamline installation, very much like any other package manager from open source OSs like Linux and FreeBSD, where you type apt-get and the name of the package, and it installs it and updates it and all that. Microsoft, because most of the applications were never designed for that, they took a different approach. They took actually an approach of community project, and it's amazing. We've seen before that, we've seen projects like Chocolately and Scoop, and they still exist and they still thrive. But this time, there's one run by Microsoft, and it's getting better and better and better. Now, Microsoft also found a way for some of these to tie whatever they're creating for Winget to the Microsoft Store. So the logic in the back end is very, very similar. And yeah, and it tracks that eventually Winget will be this community project, while the Microsoft Store will be the official place, right, where Microsoft makes their money. And yeah, it'll
Cousin Ruthie, who's sitting in front of me here, of course, says that she found that she couldn't download Chrome on older iOS versions.
their iOS version. That's probably because of iOS. That's because that'll happen on Android as well, I think. So there's a backward compatibility level, right? And so once the OS moves forward, each of these applications, they're designed to work on newer and newer generations of the OS. And so certain services are being have been adopted only by newer OS versions. And so at a certain point, there's a decision, okay, we can't support too much back, right? So on Android, it's called level. I don't remember what level it's on. I think it's on 30 something or 40 something in Android at this point, but most applications are built to support level 20, right? And that goes back to Android 4 or 5, and we're at 13 at this point, right? So it's all about, okay, can I allow myself to backward support? And that means that I am not privy when I'm writing my applications with the new stuff that Google or Apple put into the APIs and SDKs. So yeah, at a certain point, if I want to support better security, then I cannot be backward compatible for stuff that has been created 5 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, that'll happen. But you should, for at least a while, find forks of Chrome, right? Because it's Chromium based and all that, like either community projects or actually official ones like Brave or something like that, that they understand that they want to pick up the stragglers, right? Those who stayed with the old hardware, and that's an in for them to use their apps, so they'll be backward compatible for a bit longer. There's always somebody stuck on it that develops an app, a fork that will continue to work for a while.
Well, that is interesting, and that explains a lot. Welcome. This is Ruti, cousin of Amnon. Welcome to my Virgin podcast. I'm not a techie in any way, although I have many family members that are techies, including, I'll give a plug for my nephew, Josh Steele, who's a Twitter guy, who's a quite avid and
He is a Twitch guy.
He's a Twitch guy. He's very successful. Plug. I'm not sure which game he plays, and some others. But I just wanted to say it makes sense what you're saying, because my iPad is old, and it's so old that, thank you very much, Apple refuses to update the iOS. It says it's already made my iPad obsolete by not allowing it to upgrade my iOS to 16 or 17 or anything like that. And then when I try and load Chrome, which I need for some applications, some calls, it says, sorry, can't load it on your old version, your back version of iOS. And I understand why, because you're saying it won't back support those programs. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. And I'm really thrilled to be here to see you guys. Amnon flew me in from Canada. I'm pretty tired right now, but
Arms tired.
I'm kidding. No, it's nice to be here and to see his extended family on this wonderful podcast. So I love listening to you all. Thank you all.
First of all, welcome. And you raise something very interesting. So there are I call it layers of lying in these inabilities to run. So first of all, your very old iOS device, right? It's not obsolete, but it is stuck, right? It cannot get new stuff.
Right.
And that's part of the problem, right? If you've been tracking anything that we're discussing on a weekly basis here, one of the things is their monopoly in not allowing any other application store to run on these devices. And that would have been a sort of solution, because there is still a very large user base that the only thing they can afford are these old devices.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing inherently wrong in them. There are some capabilities that they are lacking.
Right.
Some of these have to do with security, but most of the time it's just, this was an old choice, right? And now we went with newer choices. And by keeping supporting these old devices, we're weighed down by the need to continue to develop solutions for them.
Right.
So it's okay
Hmm.
for Apple to abandon these devices as long as they allow these devices to function on their own. They are not property of Apple. Somebody bought them for their use, but Apple still treats them of, I am the only God in the world that can rule them.
Right.
And that's the problem. That's the first lie that has to do with software and hardware in general, right? As techies over here, right, we actually get angry when we're faced with such devices. But we also understand how it works. I mean, that's why I am probably never going to pay for an Apple product, because I know I'm always going to be tethered to them unless there's going to be a solution that allows me to completely disconnect. Right. So that's the layers of lies. The one that the hardware cannot function, the hardware can function, and there's very novel and interesting ways to keep using this old hardware and make it effective. And it's just about setting free the software. So
it's also a case of needs, to redirect your needs. So I can do it on another piece of hardware, that does upgrade.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it's
what they
not the
want.
end-
that
Yeah.
exactly that's what they
That's a
want.
luxury. It's not the end of the world, but it's a luxury that I can have both,
Yeah.
an older and
That's
a
how
newer.
they get
But you're
you.
right; it's not obsolete. The multitude of functions that one would probably want to do on that old iPad, I can continue to do. So you're right, not obsolete, just a nuisance.
All right, so we ragged on Apple. Now look what Windows is doing in a move that could quietly wreak havoc across the Windows ecosystem. Microsoft is purging outdated drivers from Windows Update.
Oy.
The company claims it's doing this for security and reliability, but the result might be broken hardware for users who rely on legacy devices. If you're
There's a
using
solution.
what?
There is a solution.
Yeah.
At least with Microsoft, that's the thing. They are doing it on their end. That's true.
Right.
And they're getting rid of it. But there is a solution. And it's better than Microsoft updates. Okay? I've talked about it. It's Snappy Driver right updater. That piece of software has saved my bacon this week, right? For a couple of things. So yes, Microsoft will do that, but there is a solution.
So
is there a more conclusion to the story?
So yeah, so if you're using older peripherals or custom built PCs, you could soon find yourself hunting for drivers that have vanished into the digital abyss. The infinitive, the initiative
Oh,
buried in a low profile blog post is part of Microsoft's new cleanup program. The first wave targets legacy drivers that already have newer replacements available. But the real kicker is that Microsoft isn't warning individual users about which drivers are going away. So if you
I
have
don't know
an
that
old,
they need to warn them though.
well, I mean, if you
What-
have an old printer,
Yeah,
that-
but listen, but go back to the sentence before that
Yeah.
read, they are phasing out old drivers that have newer
correct replacement. That's
newer replacements. So if you have an old driver, but there's a newer compatible one, that will update automatically anyway.
hopefully.
And even if it doesn't, I don't think it's going to go away. It just will no longer be downloaded. It's once it's on your computer, it's on your computer. Microsoft's not going to retroactively go back and delete a device.
They are deleting the driver.
They're deleting the deleting
Yeah,
the driver
on their servers.
from their update utility. They're not going to go back to your machine and remove an old driver. It's just if you set up a new machine, once that driver's gone, that old version, let's say version 4 versus version 5, will no longer be available from Microsoft as a download. If you still have it on a computer, it's fine.
Yeah, but
That's
Nick,
how I read
Nick.
Am
We're
I?
talking here as techies. Imagine
Yes.
the old lady that's sitting somewhere and she's got a computer and she prints her grandkids' pictures
Sure.
and it's been working for years and suddenly one morning she gets up and she can't use the printer.
No, no, no,
Why-
no. But
that won't
no,
happen.
What you're
Why-
describing,
why
that's
would the
not what's
machine
happening.
so-
Wait,
Just
one
not
at a
removing the
time.
driver.
One at a time.
Amnon, what you're describing, what you read is not what you're describing.
Well, I mean,
What
May-
you read is one scenario, right? And what you're describing is
Look,
another. What
the-
you read
the
is
wor-
Microsoft is cleaning up their servers.
look, they're saying the company claims it's doing this for security and reliability, but the result might be broken hardware for users.
Yeah, that's the interpretation of the author,
Well,
and is just it's just scare tactics.
Because why would
Microsoft is
Microsoft put out an update to remove drivers from a working
they're
machine?
saying that's for security. I mean, I'm not
But
saying
that's
that-
not what you read that they're doing. So why add that scare if that's not what they are saying they are doing?
I don't
That's
know.
the way
I mean,
news works.
Exactly. It's just the author of the article, he read something and he went to the wrong conclusion. And that's fine, but let's not echo that. What I'm saying is this: Microsoft is cleaning up their servers. Okay. They're starting with, right, just kicking out all drivers that have new versions, which is completely fine, right? Because up until now, they held all of these versions.
mhm.
Why? Because the API would allow you to request an older version, but they say, no, I have a signed new version of that driver. That's the only driver that should happen, that should be served. Security wise, it is a good practice
Yes.
because
Yeah.
that means that they are no longer serving anything that has holes in them. But that does not mean that they will remove anything from an installed system. It just means that if you come and install and you want version 4, it's not there. You want version 5, fine, take it. That's what the
Mic-
article said.
Well,
Microsoft taking in-house all the drivers was a great boon for us because remember the day when you'd set up a new machine and you'd have to go to the website of the
Yeah.
system builder to go and find their list of drivers and pull one over at a time. Dell made it better because you could do a batch, but you still had to do that individually, each driver. And with now Microsoft with their system that they've created, I'm not saying it's great, but it works to an extent. You just have to go there and install it. It recognizes the hardware and pulls in the driver. It's only the older machines that will suffer from that. And you probably can
Yes.
still go get them from some library
different
if
places.
if
And
the
like-
manufacturer's still around.
and like,
But I disagree with what you just said, Spence. I don't think older machines will struggle with this because they're only if they're even if a driver is really old, but there's no new alternative based on the story that Amnon just proposed, that will not be removed. It's only if there's a newer,
Replacement.
updated,
Well, not
more
at first.
No,
compatible version.
what I meant was that's not what I'm saying. What I
Sorry,
meant
okay.
was if you're doing a clean install on old hardware, right, and you don't have and that library of drivers is no longer at Microsoft,
Right.
right?
Because
That
it was
could
the
be an
last
issue.
time it was updated
Yeah.
was 2014 or something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
I
no,
mean.
I'm with Spence on this. It will happen. It will happen. They will remove old hardware drivers that there's no alternative to as well. Right? That will happen. And I'm okay with that Microsoft does not want to handle those drivers. But I'm also stressing that unlike, let's say, an iOS device, right, that we talked just a moment ago, there are alternatives. There is a community of very smart people that figured out how to share this properly, how to make it as streamlined and as easy as Windows Update, right? And so it's important to understand that there are solutions.
there are solutions. There's no doubt that there are solutions. It's just a nuisance. But we'll see how it goes. We'll probably
So
probably come across that and see if it's
It's
let's
job
let's
security
be
too.
clear. Let's be clear, right? If you're running, if you are not a techie, that means you rely on technologically minded people to provide you solution. That can either be the company that you're buying the tech from, right? Or tech people around you that knows how to solve issues that are less common. Okay.
Mhm.
And so if we're talking about cleaning up stuff from 10 years ago, I am saying that's not a nuisance. I'm saying that's just a tech hurdle. And that is part of the technology life cycle. And if you have somebody technically able to solve that issue for you, then that's great, right? As long as you're using something that will allow you to do
Yeah.
that, right? So that's all I'm saying. That just a technical hurdle is not a nuisance. It's part of the life cycle of this. This has become. I mean, I'm trying to find an alternate, an equivalent to. Luckily, we do not see that in other technologies, right? Nobody's shutting down your TV because it's incompatible anymore. Nobody is telling you can't use this faucet because the version of the water has changed, right? So, luckily, we do not see that in any other thing. But with technology, with the technology around computing, things are changing so fast, right? That the equivalent is, you can't plug this hose anymore because it's in the wrong caliber, right?
I am all for a plumbing license that you have to purchase in order to get your plumbing to work. We could make a ton of money on this.
Yeah. Certificate, plumbing
Right.
certificate.
I'm sorry, your
There's gonna be
toilet
a
certificate
handshake.
expired.
No more of
Am-
those pesky. What's the quality of your water? And send us a sample.
You haven't kept up with your toilet certificate, so you can only do a partial flush until you upgrade your license.
Amnon, does it mention? I would love to know how many drivers Microsoft is currently hosting. I mean, it's got to be tens, if not hundreds of thousands.
I'll bet it is. Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Based
Well, I
on
can
hardware,
tell
yeah.
you.
No,
I
okay. Look.
No, I can
look,
tell you one
look.
thing. The Snappy SDIO, Snappy
Mhm.
Driver Installer Origin, has the way it works is there are these huge packages of drivers, and they're separated in different families of drivers. Each of these packages is around 2 to 3 gigabytes in size, and they contain multiple versions of
Mhm.
drivers as needed by computers, because they also have an index that says this driver is optimal for your hardware, right?
Right.
Even if there's a newer one, right? And so these packages are huge. They're huge.
So Nick, what was the question?
I just am curious, like from a practicality standpoint, Microsoft trying to get rid of, that. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious how big and influential that is. That was all.
All right. Okay. Let's switch again. We haven't heard the name Napster in some time. Napster, the brand synonymous with music piracy boom of the early 2000s, has new copyright challenge. Together with audio giant Sonos, Napster faces a lawsuit demanding over $3.4 million in alleged unpaid copyright royalties. Filed by collective rights management organization Sound Exchange, the complaint centers on missed payments related to the Sonos radio service, which until 2003 was powered by Napster Music Catalog.
Good.
So
It's a shit
Sonos,
service.
I thought
so
Sonos
it
was just the speakers.
Well,
they've
it's
got
an
a whole
ecosystem.
thing.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem, and they tried to push their own music service as well.
Okay.
And yeah, they shouldn't have. I agree.
All right. Well, that's interesting. In today's standards, 3.4 million is not a lot when it comes to
Yeah, but
copyright and whatever.
it's more than the lawyer's fee, so they'll run it to the ground, right?
Yeah.
So
We'll see. And Facebook now supports passkeys for login, offering users a more secure phishing resistance alternative to passwords by using biometrics or a PIN stores on their device. The feature is rolling out to iOS and Android soon, while Messenger will get the feature in the coming months. So
I thought
it
they
looks
already
like they're
did that.
Messenger
passkeys.
is already encrypted. I had to. This is probably maybe 2 or 3 months ago.
Oh.
I tried. I obviously used Messenger on my phone and on my computer. When I logged in, it said, these conversations are not available.
Oh,
Please
that's 5
configure."
years now. Yeah, no,
It
that's
wasn't.
nothing new.
That just turned on for me within the
Oh.
last 2 months. Maybe it was forced, obviously, which was fine.
All right.
Okay.
And Katie, oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
that's been a long time going. But the passkey is interesting. I thought they already did that, but okay.
No.
Maybe they're forcing it on all accounts now. I don't know.
Hey, automatically what?
It automatically downloaded to any iOS devices we have.
Oh.
Yeah.
But that's Facebook. Are you talking?
No, for passkey on my iOS
Yeah,
device.
that's-
Period.
yeah,
Yeah,
They-
the moment iOS asks you whether you want to use an iOS app asks you whether you want to use biometrics like a fingerprint or face ID or the PIN code.
Yeah.
That means it doesn't exchange, not all the time, but when it mentions the word passkey, what it does, it exchanges a certificate. Basically, it creates a certificate that is unique to the device. And the only way to open it is on that device using the PIN that releases the encrypted part of the public identity of that certificate to the server requesting it. So it means that it can only handshake a specific endpoint. So it cannot, if somebody is trying to impersonate you,
Mm-hmm.
it's not enough for them to have this public side of the key, because they will never have the private side of the key. They will never have a secret that can impersonate the other side asking for this.
Right.
And so that means that you will never accidentally give your password to something that is impersonating the real thing.
Mm.
That's why passkeys are more secure than just using passwords. But it also flies above the head. I mean, it mostly flies above the head of me as well. Like, how can that be better than just me remembering something, right? It's the complexity that goes in there is worth the effort. So if you want to use passkeys, definitely make yourself familiar with the process of registering a passkey and using it. It is safer than using a password.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, what?
Correction. It's the password app on my Apple, not passkey. Sorry.
Get the mic close to you.
Sorry. A correction on my end. It's passwords, not passkey on my iOS. My apologies.
Okay.
Yeah, so
It's
it'll get to passkeys probably in the next iteration of
Yeah.
updates.
Yeah.
That's what the news release is about.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting up with me, folks.
Hey, Katie,
But
President Trump will extend the deadline for ByteDance to divest TikTok U.S. operations by another 90 days.
yay, he's just gonna do that forever and ever and ever until the next
pretty
election.
much.
Marking the third extension since taking office. The extension aims to prevent a TikTok ban while negotiations with potential buyers like Oracle and Project Liberty continue.
So
yeah,
I have a question. What is the end game with this? Like, is this just gonna be in forever? It's just gonna keep pushing it back, or is there gonna be another president that puts the hammer down and bans TikTok or says whatever, or I don't know.
Anything could happen. You don't know.
I mean,
hold
if-
it, guys.
if-
Let me go and get my crystal ball so I can answer her.
Time machine. Time machine
Yeah,
would be better.
time machine.
They're just
I
gonna wait
mean-
until Meta buys it.
It's just
that
interesting.
won't happen. Yeah, that won't happen because I don't think. I'm trying to think like what would be it won't be Meta that buys them. Let's put it this way. It'll if it'll be something, it'll be some name. It'll be Spectrum or or like it'll be like something like the worst choice ever.
Yeah.
Walmart.
And
Yeah, something like that.
Walmart. Yeah, that's a good one.
and kids, be glad that you're not in Australia, because Australia world first social media ban for under 16s moved closer to implementation after a key trial found that checking a user's age is technologically possible
Hmm.
and can be integrated into existing services. The conclusions are a blow to Facebook owned meta platforms, TikTok and Snap, which oppose the controversial legislation. Some platforms operators had questioned whether a user age could be reliably established using current technology. So apparently they say it is possible.
Yeah, the moment you ask you ask for access, that's something that in accident will not be available to a 16-year-old or less, then yeah. I mean, the payment system was fine. Like it's fine for porn sites over here in the US. Like it's easy.
Well,
It's easy, but I mean, there's no incentive for them to do this. It cuts down dramatically on their user base. That's why everybody's so
Right.
adamantly against it.
That's why it needs to be legislation that forces it. But yeah, it's easy.
Yeah. I'm kind of up in the air about it. I just don't know. I don't, when we talk about, we don't talk about government all that often, but whenever we do, it's always, oh, look at how they're 20 years behind on this or 20 years behind on that. And then we're talking about them legislating stuff for social media, which is such a dynamic sphere. I don't know. Rubs
Yeah,
me the wrong way.
yeah.
but limiting access to like adult age. Look, my teenage self would hate it, right? But I get it. I get it. And it makes sense.
I get it too. It goes to me. It's more of a philosophical question than it is anything else. Is this the role of government to be legislating whether a child can sign? We're not talking about drinking. We're not talking about buying cigarettes or anything like that. We're talking about signing up for Facebook or X. And are there
Well,
concerns with platforms like that with some of the content? Absolutely. I just don't. To me, it's a philosophical debate over whether this is the role of government or not. That's where I see it.
I mean, I think it is the role of a governing agency. It's the same role of a governing agency as with alcohol and drugs, because I do think that like the way I would like to see the government control alcohol consumption is by allowing the parent to rule over their children's boundaries. Okay, it's my job as a parent to make sure that my child is safe, and it is the job of the government to make sure I never abuse my children, right? Because and yes, it's a thin philosophical line of what abuse looks like, right? Because it can be just physical abuse, which is very easy to measure. But when it comes to psychological abuse, right, then we are definitely in a problem state, right? And when it comes to social media, what we expose, what we allow our children to be exposed for, right? I think it should be in our control, and it just means that when the government is asking for age verification, for example, right, this suddenly becomes, okay, there's a certain level at which the company who's running this can take control over, and that is, for example, access to a credit card and stuff like that we know that pretty much works most of the time. And if me as a parent, I want to lie here, right, and allow my child access, then that's on me. And I think on the philosophical end, if that's the extent of it, I'll take it. But yeah, it's I think we know that the effect on the mind, on the soul, right, of young children, of social media can be worse than drugs and alcohol at times. So yes, I do think
Yeah.
it needs to be limited.
All right. We're coming to that time of day. Any other additions anybody wants to bring up? Think fast. No. Okay. Well, thanks, Gal. And thanks, Katie and Nick and Spence. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Donna, Dina, Mati, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov and Yael, Ruti and Yuval. Thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. And change any same password wherever you use them. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at Computers 2K Now. Again, Monday through Friday, 5 to 6 a.m., Nick hosts the Carolina Journal News Hour on WBT, 11:10 a.m., 99.3 FM, and on YouTube. Just search for Carolina Journal News Hour on YouTube, and you'll find it. Nick also hosts the Nick Craig Show, weekdays from 7 till 8. Just go to nickcraig.com and get all the information. And Nick and Brian host the Infection Podcast on Twitch. That's for gamers, survival games, and just in general gaming news. Just go to infectionpodcast.com, get the details there. Have a great week, and we'll be back together next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.